just keep trying this until I get it right. This is, I think, the third time that I'm doing a vlog daily, driving vlog daily, and see if I have anything to talk about. I definitely had something this morning, and I don't remember what it was. I think I was talking to myself about stuff, like you do, and I went on a weird tangent. And the only topic I can remember was talking about stuff, like you do, and something that you do is hold conversations with other people in my head. So other real people, I'll hold imaginary conversations with them, just me and myself talking back and forth. Most of the time, this is pretty basic, generic fantasy, me going off on a weird whatever. But sometimes, this morning was an example, and I can't remember what it was, I actually managed to find some piece of thought of mine and drill into it, and I can maybe get a discussion about, for example, why I believe something that I believe, or what I think about some process. I don't know. So sometimes it works. It's a usable strategy. Most of the time, I'll freely admit, it's basically wanking, as it were. Alright, I got my 2 merges in here, and then I'm good to go. I'm gonna kind of be quiet here, because I'd rather be less distracted while driving a road with all these people. No, don't be there. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And then, oh crap. No, I missed that opportunity while I was looking. And screw it. Screw it. I'm just gonna go forward. Just blaze through all this. There's gonna be a spot up ahead here, because it thins out a lot right here. I don't do that more often. I know that it thins out there. I should probably just wait. Okay. There we go. I bet he thinks I'm watching a movie. I wonder if the person behind me thinks I'm like watching a movie or something. And maybe I should put a little screen over the screen. So what I have right now, and I've expressed this, I think, in a previous video, is my phone hanging from the rear view mirror right in front. So it's not, it's totally dash cam action, but you're not actually on my dashboard. It's hanging from the rear view mirror. Now, that means that the screen on my phone is pointed backward and is showing the people behind me what it looks like in front of me, if they can see it. So it kind of looks like I'm watching a movie while I'm driving home in traffic, and I'm sort of concerned I might get pulled over for that. I'm not watching a movie, I'm recording my drive, and there's no reason for me to look at the screen because all it's showing me is what I can already see. I am interested to see, for example, how this hospital turns out in the final video, but I can't really tell because it's on a tiny little screen, what it actually is going to look like. If it will give the same impression on screen that it does when I'm looking at it. Honestly, probably not. You're in a different position. From where I am, I've got, I think this is the A beam, maybe, but there is one of the support beams of the roof is in my peripheral, and because I'm pulled back from the window compared to you, my view is framed, which means that distant objects like the hospital up here have a frame against them from my perspective, from my view, and it makes them look dramatically larger. I have some other pictures, maybe I should put up, of a mountain in the distance from an airplane, and they have the same, they show the same thing, where if I'm pulled back and on the seat, then the window of the airplane frames the mountain and it looks very big. If the camera is right up against the window, then there's no framing and there's no frame of reference, and the mountain looks dramatically smaller. It's kind of a neat thing. I don't even know if I'm going to keep doing this, so I suppose I shouldn't be thinking too hard about long term. Do I want to set up a much nicer recording situation with like a camera so I don't have to shout at my phone just to be heard? So I think that'll improve my voice, or the way my voice sounds. I think it will sound less strained if I have better equipment and can actually hear myself and don't need, for example, to shout, basically. Maybe I mount a directional mic to my steering column, perhaps. Could work. At the screen, it's all bumpily. I don't even remember who I was pretending to talk to. Well, that's a shame. Could have been anything. Could have been ethics. I don't know if I mentioned my primary inspiration for this sort of thing, in addition to the fact that I just talk to myself, and also I'd like to get my voice better, which practice will do that. If I constantly work on what my voice sounds like, then I'll get better at doing things I want to do. But the other thing was seeing them and seeing that it looked kind of like a fun thing. And in particular, I watch YouTube gamers, predominantly Minecraft people, and most of the time it's either Kurt Jimak or Vintage Beef. They have driving vlogs, and I thought that looks like a lot of fun. I bet I could do that and enjoy it. And so far, I watched my first test one a little bit. I don't like the sound of my voice, as I said, but I think I am enjoying them, and I think I'm gonna like doing them. So for right now, at least, I'll just keep making these, and then what happens, I guess. Maybe someone wants to watch them. Maybe no one does, and it'll just end up that I'm storing stuff on YouTube instead of on my own storage media, which that's something, because I'm not super keen on keeping all of this stuff. If there's any thoughts that I really want out of these, I can keep them separate and write them down maybe. Down. And kind of coming up on the end of the drive. I mean, I got like 5-6 more minutes. That's enough for a whole rant about something. About what? I don't know. But about something. Sure, I could pull together 6 rants. 6 minutes of ranting. When I was in high school, I did speech and debate. And I won't claim that I was very good at it, but I did do it. And one year I did the impromptu speech event where you are given a set of 3 prompts. You pick one prompt and you have 7 minutes to prepare and deliver a speech on that prompt. And then everyone's judged based on who gave a more compelling speech, who gave a more interesting speech, who used the least, if it comes down to it, who used the least prep time. But having 7 minutes, I should have the training where I can, off the top of my head and out of all the things that happen on a day-to-day basis or whatever, I should be able to fill 6 minutes of air with something coherent, one would think. So, as I said, I wasn't particularly good at it, so even though I should be able to, maybe I won't be. I think this actually is pretty close to the end of the segment of the drive I typed. There's maybe a half mile more before I really dive into residential zone, instead of filming myself driving past a bunch of people's houses, which is weird. I just cut off here in a little bit. And I don't think I have anything that I'm in the middle of saying, so maybe I'll pick up where I left off when I do drive part 2 through all of this. There's sort of an industrial park, or I guess a commercial park there, and I go drive through a greenbelt, some other stuff, so maybe I'll combine them. I think that one ends up being like 8 minutes of video. This one, I'll have to look at. This one was what, 14? Like 25 minutes. That's a show. Keep them split for an hour or something. At any rate, I think I am enjoying these. I'll probably keep doing them. I need to work on like a sign on and a sign off, and then that way I have something to start from and something to finish with. But until then, next time. Monday, November 9th, 2015, and it's part 2 of the thing. Although, I guess if I put them together, I'll do clever editing, and then they'll all just kind of blink. And then there like won't be any gap there. You won't really need, well, I mean, there'll be a gap there, but there won't. I'll just skip all that. Back on the road, though, and driving a little bit further. Taking care of some other things. I don't know if I have anything else to talk about. I'm sure I do. I haven't said everything I think and feel and believe, so there's probably other things to talk about. It's a matter of whether or not I can dredge something up. That's the real issue. I'm trying different things with my voice and the placement of my mouth to see if I can get myself to a voice that I like. Some things that annoyed me about it at first, I thought it sounded really nasally and kind of, it has this upper tone that I don't want in my voice. Personally, I've always been like low tenor baritone voice, and I'd like to be a low baritone bass voice. Or I say that about myself, and I do like that, but when I go and do karaoke or whatever, I end up singing a lot of pop songs, which are mostly high tenor or soprano songs. Sometimes I'll sing, like if it's the right night for it, I could do, say, Tracy Chapman, and her voice fits in my upper range neatly and I'm not pushing anything, which is nice. But for the most part, I do pop, and pop is really heavily dominated by tenors and sopranos. So most of my singing practice, outside of the 2 semesters of choir I took in high school, has been higher stuff. So that would probably bring my voice up, which is not something I want. Though I don't not want to be able to sing high notes. I like that because it's impressive and it wows people. But at the same time, that's not what I want to do with my voice. Should probably focus more on singing low-voiced songs, and I should really dig into finding some. And then maybe I can get good and wow people with a low voice. So part of what I'm doing here, one of the things I'm going to try is maintaining a smile, or what it actually is a lift in my cheeks. And that does bring the voice up, but it brightens it instead of just sharpening it. The other thing I'm going to try to remember to do is to speak from my diaphragm, because that uses my whole chest cavity for the bass note of, or the fundamental of my, I guess the root note, the waveform. There we go. The bass waveform of my voice is then going to be richer, but have a lower fundamental because I'm using the whole chest cavity instead of just the upper part of it. Some of it might just be that the microphone on my phone, on my cell phone, doesn't pick up all of the frequencies in the same way, and it's getting distorted, and that makes it sound different to me. I don't know. Could be. Other things I want to try to do, mumble less. I mumble a lot, and since I'm in phone support, mumbling is really bad. It's like a really bad habit to have for what I do. It means I don't communicate well, and I like communicating with people. I like it when my thoughts and other people's thoughts can get together and make new thoughts. Oh, that's what I was talking about this morning. Oh, I just remembered. I was talking about being a proscriptivist versus being a descriptivist. And the first time I came across these words was in linguistics, where descriptivist linguistics is stating that a language is a certain way, and so it has to be that way, and then the goal then is for people to match the description of the language with what they're using to communicate. Or no, sorry, I got that backwards. Proscriptivist language prescribes certain rules and patterns to language, and then the goal of the user is to match those rules, and that is correct language. Descriptivist comes from the position that there is language, and that the goal of the linguist is to find the rules that describe it. And the main difference is that a descriptivist is less likely to declare you're doing it wrong, because that doesn't really make sense. I mean, so there is a way to do it wrong. You can definitely not be doing the language right. But in general, if that's the way people are doing the language, then that's what's right, instead of what's right being how people should do the language. And this ties back to a belief of mine, something that I picked up from a different set of blogs that I used to read, where, and I'll have to look up an actual source for this philosophical claim, but the idea of map versus territory in terms of what is and what we call things. I am a descriptivist. I think that in that specific case, grammar and linguistics is finding the set of rules that describe the way people use a language, as opposed to laying down a set of rules that are the language and then defining what can and cannot be based on that. And this expands to kind of a broader idea that in general, when we label things, we're marking out a map. But what we're marking out is not the territory, right? When you look at a map of a city, it's not the city. It cuts out a lot, and it simplifies to put that much stuff in less space. So what you're looking at is a map, not the territory. You're looking at a simplification, something that doesn't exactly match. And in some sense, it never can exactly match. So when you describe something, when you put down the rules of a language, you're simplifying so that you can use less space, right? Because when we set down the rules of a language, it takes up less informational space than the language itself. So we're necessarily missing bits. So I'm a descriptivist in more than just that, and I think I'm going to end off here and pick it up on a different video, because this is about the end of what I would be recording for this. Kind of that's what I was talking. That's what I wanted to do a rant about now, was the difference between proscriptivism and descriptivism, and how being a descriptivist means what I said, and what I wanted to do was expand that idea and apply it to things like sociological and political labels. So that's where I think I'll try and pick up the next time I do one of these. Good night.